Welcome, Hope family. It's spreading like a wildfire, and I am here for it, and I love it. The testimonies you guys are sharing, the feedback that you're sending through, the prayer requests, and some of you just standing on the promises and the scriptures that we read. I didn't know that you guys actually noticed them, but some of you have said, that has been my scripture for a whole month, that has been my scripture for a whole week. I've used it in my prayer chamber, and let me tell you, God will never let you down. He is faithful, and his word is yes and amen. If that is what he said he will do, he will actually do it. And today, as I was actually thinking about all of us in the different moments that we are going through, I thought about Revelations 21:4. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, no crying, no pain anymore, for the former things have passed away. There's a time in your life that you will stand and look back and say, what exactly happened? I'm living a totally different life, a life of my dreams. Or what I walk through, the endurance, the tears, the morning has indeed come. The night has gone away and the morning has indeed come. So I don't want you to lose hope. I know that we are going through different phases. Some of you are happy. Some of you are mourning. Some of you are crying. Some of you have been let down. Heartbreaks are becoming heartbreaks. Suicidal thoughts are crossing your mind, but I will tell you that there is a God of hope, and one that who restores your spirit. So speak to your mind even as you share in this program, and then if this blesses you, share it with someone, invite them to actually go ahead together with you. Now today we have a very I will not say handsome. Some of you you'll start saying, but everyone is beautiful and handsome. But you wait, you see for yourselves. You wait, you see for yourselves. But one thing, I've not really had much interaction with him, but I can sense that his spirit is one that wants to share hope and one that wants to help. And so I am here. I am going to learn as much as you're going to learn, and we're going to listen in this together. So let's pick up as much as we can pick up and share it with the world. I've been told the kids called him Uncle Drew, right? Yeah. So we'll hear the story of the kids, because some of you be like, the kids call him Uncle Drew. Which kids? That was my question exactly. Yeah. Where does Uncle Drew come from? Where does your story start?
Uncle Drew comes from Andrew. Mm-hmm. My name is Indiaguma Andrew Victor. Mm-hmm. The Victor came to me when I gave my life to Christ. It was such a lovely moment that the name came to me with meaning, because I had overcome a lot of things. So I love it. I use it a lot. And actually people ask me, is it your real name? Is Victor your real name? But actually the person that led me to Christ gave me the name, and I took it on immediately. I was born and raised in Mbarara, in a place called Rampara. It's now a district, but before it was a small village, a hilly area, a very deep village. It's where I have most of my childhood memories. Okay. It's where I played my games. It's where I made the first friends. It's where I went to school. And from that time, I grew up to learn different things around people in the village. And I was a very adventurous child. I was very curious to learn things. I was very experimental, and I always did whatever came to my mind with the things around me. And I began to influence other children, because in the village you don't have much of toys, you don't have
you just
games,
have to be creative.
Just creative with the things around you.
Your balls.
Is it stones? Is it
pints?
Sticks? Is it banana fiber? Is it... And I had a lot of gifts as a child, and according to the testimonies people keep giving you, then you get to understand there was something unique on me. I had a very good childhood. Yes, I'm the last born of 4. I'm the only boy. Okay. But the sister I follow is the last born. She is more of a child.
Okay.
So she took on the position. Okay. I grew up with them till I was in primary 1, and I lost my father. Then in primary 3, I lost my mother. In that time, things were really hard, because you have started life, you have both parents. They were actually well, They had some money, they had a car, they had good jobs. But then things changed when Dad passed on. Now you're with a single mother, she's struggling, looking for friends to help, relatives. And we also had to understand now Mom is alone. We have to do whatever she tells us, as young as we were. Like, life teaches you things
The hard way.
the hard way. So a few years later, when Mom passed, you now had to look for, who do you cling on to? Is it a grandmother? Is it an uncle? Is it a friend? And we didn't know where to go. We didn't know what to do. But a paternal uncle, a big brother to my late father, took on the big position, the big role. He became a father, he became a friend, he became a guide. As young as we were, he acted immediately. He didn't wait for a week or a month. He acted immediately, went and lived with our grandmother, because our uncle was working in Kampala and we were living in Mbarara. So we lived with a grandmother. Before my mother died, she had tried to contact Compassion International. And a friend of hers there actually enrolled us. We became part of the beneficiaries of the organization. And then they supported us while we were living with our grandmother. 2 of my sisters were taken by my uncle to Kampala, and me with my sister that I follow stayed with our grandmother. And at that time, we didn't know how to pray. We have children, you're just looking for a mother, you're looking for a father, you're looking for friends to just...
A sense of belonging.
Just to play and have a sense of belonging, have someone you can trust and open up to whatever you're experiencing. I think we used to cry like every day for almost like a year. Every day.
Because you understood that you didn't have parents.
Yes, you'd see other kids running to their parents and your mother was grandmother. So you would finish a day of activity and you sit by the door. I loved looking at the sunset. And I would always remind myself that another day has gone down. I have to face life alone. So then sometimes my sister would come and join me, sit by my side, and then we just talk and jazz. So things became hard when we started joining school. And yes, an uncle will provide something, grandmother will add something, requirements or school fees. But the things that you would love, but you'll be like, I can't actually talk about them.
Yeah.
If there's an extra shirt I want, I can talk about it. I have to appreciate what I have. If it's a juice or appetizer or
soda.
blue band or soda or juice, you'd think about those things, but what would come to you is what you would receive. If grandmother has hard corns for you, if they say there's a pawpaw for you, there's maize, you go with that. And actually you'd get to school and you realize these things that you actually take, the other kids actually who don't get them, like, I wish my mom would buy me like a watermelon or... So right in P4, P3, I joined boarding school as young as I was with my sister. The school was a private school belonging to a friend to my father, to my late father. So I did not pay school fees for some time with my sister. But along the way, an uncle that was not around, a maternal uncle, I think he was in the US, he was a medical doctor, he comes around. So when he comes around, he has a big car, he has money, he's like, I want to buy this, he has no shoes, new shoes. Immediately things have to change because he had to fill that gap, that void that he felt he wasn't around to take care of some things. So when the director of the school saw him and what he was able to do and his big profile, it's like, you should bring in something. Like,
so now
they've been studying for free. So as a little boy, I was with my grandmother in the director's office. And this lady is like, he needs to pay school fees. As little, but I could understand everything. I was in P3 and I could pick everything, every bit. So I spoke to grandmother and I'm like, are we now going to pay school fees? She's like, don't worry, God will work it out. She was a believer, but not a preaching kind. She used to live her life so that you learn from her. How you treat people, how you talk to people.
You just witness and observe.
So she handled it like a mother. talk to the lady nicely that we shall see what to do. We can't fail. God has brought you and we shall continue with you. When my uncle heard, he was like, the very day we finished the meeting, he called his personal assistant and said, take them to another school. And he paid school fees. So he didn't want to have an exchange with this other person. You give them an offer, and now you're taking away the offer. So he was like, join the new school. I'll take care of everything. I'll tell your other uncle who has been supporting you to know that you're in this school and all the help can come this side. So we joined the school. Life was good. I was loved. And in school, of course, there are prayers, there are fellowships, there are teachers who love God. So they began to talk about God, and I would listen to my grandmother, and I didn't know what God was. Of course, you pray, you recite things as you're taught in Sunday school, but as you begin to grow, you get questions. Who is God? Does he really exist? If there's a believer that has never asked themselves if God is real, then they don't believe. Because at a certain point, you ask yourself, is God real?
Is this real?
You go through something and like, is this real?
Does he exist?
Yeah, so in boarding school, life was good. But like at the end of the term, you would actually start praying, someone comes for me. Is an auntie coming?
You
Is
were
an
not
uncle
so sure
coming?
who was coming.
There were times when actually we'd spend the holiday in school.
Okay.
Stay there with the workers, the cleaners. The term begins, you actually dress in uniform and you like the rest. But you've actually been in the school for the holiday. So I began to get more curious. Who is this God? They say he answers prayers. As young as I was, I began to write down. The problem I had, I distanced my fellow young children. I began to befriend the teachers, the workers, the cleaners, and I would always move with them. So in that very year when we lost our mother earlier and we were living with the grandmother back to school, they called us home that our grandfather had died on our mother's side. So when he passed on, this was a guy I learned a lot of things from. He was not a talker. He was a doer. I actually got to even know his name later in life. He was an artist. He was a painter. He was a carpenter. He used to make dusters for schools. When school fees is not enough, he packs like class dusters for the blackboards.
Take
those. You can take off some amount. He used to have bees. He would harvest honey. He used to make aquariums. He was a very creative guy, and I learned a lot from him. So when I would go to school, the things I would put together in stone, in paper, in wood, and the teachers were like, there is something unique about this child. And I believe me and wanting to learn and trying out things was not something that I triggered myself. It's because of the environment
that you grew up
and
in.
those opportunities that God enables you to get. When I began to have questions about God and asking the elders, they actually started asking me, who told you about God? Why are you over asking about God? Do you think you're going to die? I'm like, actually, I can die anytime. I have nothing to live for. Because there was a guy who was a teacher and a cameraman who later on, like after secondary, he met me and reminded me that one time you told me you are okay with dying because you have nothing to live for. When you're a child growing up and you have no mother, no father, you lose a grandfather, and then later on you actually victimize yourself, you pity yourself, things get really hard because you begin to corner
and isolate.
So I felt there was a big void within me that no one would feel. Because if others are saying, let me run to mommy, I am strong, I am covered. Now I'm looking for God to feel that. Because if the two are gone and they say they're the earthly parents, and then God, your father, is in heaven, can he feel that void within me? So as a little boy, being curious and all that, sometime on the weekends, we would go to our grandmother's house. We had an uncle who was a taxi driver. He'd say, I'll pick you on a Friday evening, go to your grandmother's house. So one evening, I go to the stage, and he's not there. It's 8, 9, 10, he's not around. And I see kids moving, they're eating chapati, they're eating. So I sat by, it was a petrol station, the taxi stage was near the petrol station. I sat there till late in the night. And then these kids kept passing and they're eating, they have oranges, they go there. I don't know whether they were stealing these things or they were buying them, but they were having fun. And it's like no one is going to tell them, do this, do that. They are living on the streets. And me, I did not know. In my young brain,
You didn't know that they were living
I was
on the
like,
streets.
these kids have a lot of freedom. So I follow them, and there was a restaurant. I vividly remember the name of the restaurant. It was called Friends Corner. And there was a big screen in the window. Would sit in the window and look at
The screen.
the screen. So sometimes the table was close to the windows, there would be food left, and these kids would pick the food. So me actually thought they were picking it from somewhere, but they were actually picking it from a restaurant. So I sat there for some time, and they actually started leaving one by one. I had to go back to the petrol station where I could get security, there's enough light, and maybe find a place to sleep. So the askari is like, where are you going? Where do you stay? Because I was clean. I was not like the rest. And then he told me, let me give you my jacket, sleep here, because I was in a short that had a name on it, Andrew. Like the schools, they label your uniform. So I sat there the whole night. I didn't sleep. In the morning, they told me to walk back to school. I did not walk back to school. I met the kids again and followed them. A week passed, another week, another
You're
week.
moving with the kids?
I'm moving with the kids. The clothes are getting dirtier, they're getting old. So I became like them. I was on the streets. I would meet a relative, turn the other way. Because I felt they would not understand. Even if they recognize me, they will not know what I'm going through, as young as I was. So my sister stays in school, my other sisters are in school, and they do not know what is happening. They actually think I'm in school, but I'm not there. So life on the street was really hard. Now I begin to cry like every night, like when everyone has slept. We used to have like those buildings where people, where they're constructing, and then mad people sleep, where the street kids sleep. So I joined them there. But every night when everything would quieten, I would start crying and ask God, is this life? Am I going to die? Like you have all those imaginations. So one time I met a boy called Adam. One night he had 2 rabbits.
Why didn't you have the morale to go back to school?
Because
This freedom
I felt
was
like there was a lot of freedom.
Okay.
And I actually wanted someone to talk to me like a mother, like a father. Can you do this? Can you do that? But I have these kids who do whatever they want. Meaning whether there's a father or no mother,
They're
they
living
can
their
do
lives.
what they want. So I'm like, I can actually be like them. So Adam was on the streets. He was older than us, and he had 2 rabbits in a box that he would feed. And because they would bully me because I'm new on the streets, I got close to Adam. He had a garden. He would plant maize, he would plant beans. And I'm like, how smart is this guy? He had 2 rabbits. So he became a friend. He took care of me. He was a Muslim. And I'm asking questions about God. One time he took me to a mosque because there was free food. I don't know whether it was like Ramadan or something. I ate the food, I showered, then he allowed me to go back to the streets. So one time I was very sick. Very sick. I was really ill, and I had nowhere to go. I was losing weight. I was vomiting. Life was really. And then a gentleman phoned me on the streets, like late in the night, I think like beyond midnight, because I couldn't tell the time. He comes to me, picks me up, he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I left home, I've been on the streets, I am sick, I need help, I need some food to eat. He took me to his house. I actually don't remember the person. Even years later, I went to look for the person. They told me he shifted, he got a job somewhere, left, even sold the land and the property. And to me, that was like an angel. Put me in a warm bed. It's like his kids were away, like in boarding school. There were kids stuff around. He was just with the wife. So I went to his house. I showered. He gave me clothes. He gave me a warm meal. And I actually became more sick because I think my body had adapted to the street
To the
life.
dirt, yeah.
So when they cleaned me up, I actually became worse. So he told me, for about a week I was with him, and he's like, we need to find your family. You must have someone you remember or a place. So one night they were praying, him and the husband at the table, and I'm in the bedroom. I opened the door, come and kneel at the mat. There was a mat. These fancy carpets were we didn't have. I think they also didn't have. So I knelt on the mat, and they actually didn't know I was there. So when they finished praying, they find me kneeling down, crying. And then the lady asked my story, where do you come from now? Because I didn't trust anyone. These ones had loved me, received me in their home from the streets. They didn't even think I would steal from them. But I was like, let me open up and tell them. We talked like almost the whole night. Like it was about to get to morning. They told me, you sleep. We shall send someone to pick you, and they'll tell you where to come and find us. They had a shop. So I was there at the shop the whole time, then went with them in the evening. So because they listened to my story, where I came from, my uncles, I think they didn't know any. And the places I was mentioning were way out of town. They're like, I think we should go to the police, to the family and the child and family protection unit. When they mentioned police, that's the time I disappeared. With all the good things they had done for me, I ran away from them, went back to the streets. So I was living with an auntie called Edida, sometimes in the holidays, because when you're an orphan, they send you to an auntie, the next holiday you're
Whoever
with
is
an
available.
uncle, like that. So within that time, I met her. And she was like, we've been looking for you everywhere. When she was still talking, I ran away. Because to me, I felt like I needed my mother back. Like no auntie, no uncle talked to me. And then this gentleman who I felt was like an angel was actually also looking for me after running away from him when he mentioned police. And then I was imagining, if he can come back, now I'll take him wherever. So he meets me one night again. He didn't take me to his house. He's like, we are going to move the whole night until you show me a place you know, someone you know. We moved. I didn't remember the directions. It's night. I'm a child. Then we moved to a road I could remember, and he knocked door by door, asking. I told him the name Sanyu. That was my mother's friend, and I think a cousin sister. Knocked about 8 or 10 houses, asking, "Is this Sanyu's?" Until the last house, we knocked, and then she was like, "Yes, I am Sanyu." It was late in the night. They had kids. Her husband was there, and they opened, and everyone was like, do you know this boy? And they received me, took me in. The gentleman was around like for more than an hour talking to them, how I've been with the boy. Now, the questions I had about God, about this gentleman was a praying family man with his wife. I felt like maybe God sent this person, because I didn't listen to any preacher, but that action, that act of kindness said a lot to me, and it answered a lot. So they took me in, took me back to school. I was with them for some time, reunited with my sister in another school, boarding. Life became better, and people kept knowing where I was, supported me. But there was always a conviction of going back to the streets. But I would keep patient and like stay around, because no one would hold me. And life was smooth. I was loved. In the school we were in, we met 2 cousins who were with I was with one in the same class, and another was below me. And their mother got to know one in the school. She gave us almost everything we wanted. Even other kids would be like, how come you guys have everything? But would remember there was a time when we actually had nothing. You'd actually expect nothing until anything comes to you. So life took a very good turn. Hope was back. I began to believe like God is there, that he can work through people. And life went smoothly. So I finished P7 with good grades. I joined secondary. Secondary comes with trouble. You're in senior 1, the boys in form 3, form 4 telling you try a cigarette. Try waraji, try we had, there was liquor packed in tote packs, Kavera. So they would pack them in the uniform, in the sweaters, and I would tell you how, this one is sweet. And then you try it out, and it's actually sweet. But in the next 30 minutes, you're not, you're in senior 1. So I dodge those things a bit. In my senior 2, I changed school. I was in Barra High School for senior 1. In senior 2, I went to Katatumba Academy. And there it was worse. The kids were doing it like it was normal.
Like it was okay.
They would go to the washrooms, to the bathrooms, and smoke like it was normal.
And then come back to class.
Yes. And then shake off their uniforms, spray some. That's where we got to learn the deals, and we were smelling good, but they would actually do it to cover the smoke. So I joined them, try those things along the way, because school, you can't balance the two. You're high, you can't come back to class. Now I started showing them the routes on the streets. This is how you can survive. I've been there. I know this place. Adam, that I was with on the streets, the time I fell sick when I'd left the streets, he actually came to hospital with a rabbit. He came to hospital to look for me with other boys. They gave me the rabbit. My sister remembers the story. I actually took the rabbit home and reared it. They actually became many, very many out of. So Adam comes to look for me. They told me he was in a school, in secondary school. He comes around. He was older. Like, how did you leave us? You just disappeared. I'm like, man, they rescued me. Compassion was there to support. Family came in. But now I wanted to go back to the street because I had started using drugs and I can't stay in school. I began to do the things. I began to steal. I stole money from people. I would open doors. There was a time I would actually pray when I'm going to steal.
That God will help you and cover you.
No one will catch me. And it would work. I began learning. There's a kid who was from a school in Kampala who had come to Mbarara. I don't know if he was expelled because of behavior or those tricks, but he taught us how to make master keys. And I would open many doors. So one time I opened my uncle's door. He was away. It was during the term. I came home, opened the door, and picked money. Went back to school, bought whatever I wanted. He came back. He got to know something was missing, but he didn't question. When I came back home for holidays, my sister was present, and he was like, I need the key that you used to open this door. And I told him I didn't have the key. How did you open it? Brought his wife, my sister, and I, and the other house helps.
To demonstrate.
Show us how you opened the door. And then in my head, I'm like, God, they were not supposed to catch me. Like, I would pray, real prayer. You kneel down and pray, like, I need this money. I need to give money to my people. I need to. And then I get my tools and open the door. And everyone was like there's no key. I have my 2 wires and another clip. These hair clips women use, like the 2 black, the ladies know them. So I get the clip and 2 rings. And I opened the door, and it opens very well. And my uncle locked me in a room for about 3 days. He's like, go in, pray to your God. He gave me a book by Rick Warren, Purpose-Driven Life.
Interesting.
For 3 days, I think I slept like 2 or 3 hours in the 3 days. I read the book. Read about God. Of course, you have questions. Some are answered. Some are like, this is just literature. And then when I got out, he's like, now you're going back to your grandmother's house. And to me, that was bad because I felt as a father in my life, talk to me, counsel me. Yes. But then it's like you're suspending me from home. Went to a grandmother's house. For some time, I couldn't come back to their house. And any support I needed would find me there. Now there, I began to think about my life, the things I have done, the smoking, the drinking. And most of these things, actually, my family doesn't know. Very few people know the bit of me on the streets because the time I was on the streets, it was time for school, and maybe they thought I was in school. So, me being at my grandma's house, she's talking about God. She tells me, you're alone in this world. I'm the only boy. I'm the last born with only girls. It's like you're alone in this world. And I didn't get it. So I began to ask God, show me what I should become. Show me how you want me to live. And things began to open themselves for me. Revelations came. As a child, I didn't understand even things that would come to me. I would hear voices. And then sometimes I would think, these are ghosts. This is my late father. This is my late mother. But then you hear a voice talking to you. Some of them would actually be on the inside, and some you actually hear like it's in your ear. Someone spoke to you. I had to go back to school, settled, did my senior 4 with good grades. But before even the exams, I had left school. Even briefing for senior 4, I wasn't around. I had my hidden talents of drinking, and I went out, came back after briefing, like in the evening. I got a punishment. And then there was a female teacher. She used to teach biology and chemistry. And then after my punishment, clean the room, do what, to prepare for UNEB, she calls me in the staff room. It was on the 16th of October, 2010. I remember the dates like my other birthday. She puts me in the staff room, closes the door. One of the male teachers is like, what's going on? How do you look yourself in the staff room with a boy? He's like, no, it's well. She was a born-again Christian, deep. She like had the word here, and she began to discipline me with just language and adult talk. No, you're an old boy, you're in senior 4, you're a big boy in school, you're influential, as even a prefect. Then she spoke to me. She spoke things about me. She talked about how I'm proud, however humble I might be and quiet, I am proud and think I'm better than. Like, to bring out that bitterness and anger, she had to provoke it for me to say out some things. So when she provoked me, I had to tell her, you don't understand, I'm even getting out of here. So she had locked the door. She's like, please go. But then I couldn't get out. I sat by the door. She was in a different corner. And she began to speak to me. Like, tell me your story. I couldn't say anything. But then I was like, if it's that other moment, maybe God has sent someone else. She was like, if you don't want, let me pray for you that God will be with you. And she started praying, and then I cut her short. I was like, stop. Don't pray for me. And she was like, that is something very bad. You can't stop someone praying for you, speaking a blessing on your life. And then I was like, I need to tell you. So I narrated everything, like even from way back how I've started sharing with you. And I had avoided, like, piled up all this bitterness, this anger. Any uncle that didn't give me a thing, I felt they didn't love me. Anyone that was close to me, but I felt they needed to do something and they didn't do it, I had something against them. Anyone that said, be with me this holiday, be with another auntie, now the relationship is done with you. Why can't I stay with you? So I shared with her all these things, why I'm doing drugs, why I'm doing alcohol in school, and then she preached to me. She was like, life is not just that. You don't have to switch to the other side because God is not giving you what you're praying for. And there are moments when I overcame things and I realized it wasn't just me. At one time I actually mixed poison, weed, these weed killer pesticides and what. I mixed it in coffee spirit. There was a booze called coffee spirit. And I took it.
What was the intention?
I wanted to die. And actually it was in my senior 4.
What triggered that?
I had a lot of demands. I wanted someone to talk to. I wasn't ready. I actually didn't want to sit senior 4. I was like, maybe I need to leave this world. I would call someone and they can't listen to me. Focus on school. And I'm like, this I'm dealing with is something I need to share now. No one would listen. So I was like, maybe I should do something. I took the booze, woke up in a clinic the next day. They said I couldn't breathe. They couldn't feel my pulse. So I remembered that moment when she said, God has made you overcome many things, but you do not know, but because you think you can switch to those things to feel good or relax or divert your mind, but there is more light on this other side. Because that morning when I woke up in the clinic, they were giving me eggplants and Ariel. Ariel, the detergent, and an egg so that I can puke out whatever I had swallowed. And I came back to life.
Wow.
Went back to school, like everything was normal. Bits and bits of this story is known by people. She spoke to me, said, "Are you willing to accept Jesus?" I'm like, "How do I accept Jesus? As long as he made me overcome those things and I'm still alive, what do you mean? Accept Jesus. Like, he can be your Lord, he can be your Savior, he can bring you things." I'm like, "You're joking, just stop." I was so bold. I remember at that time, she even told me of a relationship I had with a girl in a class higher than mine. I was in senior 4, but I had a girlfriend in senior 6. And she told me about those secrets. Of course, in school, the coupling is like illegal.
Yeah.
And I didn't think she knew. She's like, "I know everything." So the person that you think calmed you down, you go to get a hug and would get kisses in school, and then you feel like the world is... And then she was like, "Life is not like that. There's more out of life that God can prepare in your path." And then I had a lot of questions, asked and asked. That afternoon it rained. We were there for about 3 or 4 hours. And then I was like, "I'll accept Jesus. If the things you say he can do, I'll accept." And then she told me, "Tell me those moments where you felt you couldn't make it, where you felt it was over, but then you woke up the next day, things were better." So I got, actually, she told me, "I'll keep writing." She brought about 2 full scaps of, I'm narrating, I went through this, survived it. I was in a scuffle, in a fight, I survived it. One time a boy wanted to hurt me with a knife. Another boy called Joseph stood in front and took the knife. All those experiences back on the streets. And I realized it was not just people taking a place for you. It is God doing that. So all those moments that I felt I had survived, then I had to relate it to God. That, yes, it is not just fate. It is not just
you
life happening. It's just not just me doing my part, but it's God putting something in my path so that I survive. By the fact that I had all the support, there were very few moments I was just from school for fees. And I remembered, without a father and a mother, I have lost a grandfather who was there to support her. Some uncles have not been able to help. Of course, you would judge them, but then you get to realize maybe they also didn't have
their own issues.
They have their children to also take care of, and you're also another burden. Sometimes, actually, people would say it. It's another burden. It's another cost. Then I'm like, "God, you did this. I have not been chased from school because of fees. Who am I? There are kids with both parents. They come in big cars, but I have never been told, 'Get out because you've not finished fees.'" That was one thing to be grateful for. Finished senior 4, went to St. Peter's Nalia. I was brought to St. Peter's Nalia. I was like, I need to serve God. This is an environment where they don't know me. They won't judge me.
They don't know my past.
They don't know my past.
All my tricks.
I was like, let me cool down, be quiet, and see if I can serve God maybe in chapel or something. But I was hesitant. But I kept getting that voice. It's like a silent voice within you that tells you, I got you somewhere. Do something for me. I loved helping other kids. Even when I had not given my life to Christ, I used to help other children. I even have photos where I'm doing something with other children. I told you there's a teacher who was a cameraman. I have a photo where I'm holding about 10 kids and as older than them. And I paid for the photo myself with my money. I don't know where I got the money. So all those moments, I realized even in this new environment, in Nalia, in Kampala, with different lifestyle, I need to do something. I need to find God more. So I joined chapel. I didn't know what role to take on. I began to clean the hall every morning and every evening after fellowship. So when they were choosing like a team, like a cabinet to serve, they put me on the list. But I said, don't give me a role. I was quiet, I was humble. Some of it was, of course, it was an act. I do not know myself for being humble. But I said I will keep quiet, focus on my books, treat people nicely. God has made me survive something. And to shock you out of the big number, we were about 200 students in class in my senior 5. I was among the first 15.
Wow.
In my senior 4, I got actually a very bad second grade, just that it could qualify me to join A-level. So in that time, I'm like, I'll serve. If I have good grades after my first term, my uncle actually took the report with him and showed people that with whatever he went through, whatever you know about him, whatever stories, this is how he's able to perform. From Barara, and you're in Kampala, and you're performing in a school like this, because I decided to focus. And they would read people in the assembly, and they call you among the first 15. Now there you get to understand, God, this is you. This is not me reading. I served in chapel. I began making friends. I was quiet, but whenever someone would talk to me, they'll be like, they actually go and tell the story. I talked to Andrew today. And they would talk about it like it's an issue, because I didn't let in people easily. So when I'd go to chapel, I'd go back and actually relate with other people, other boys who are doing whatever, even those who are doing drugs, I'm close to them. One time a boy called Matthew, I won't say his second name, but maybe one time he'll get to understand. Matthew used to do a lot. He would be caught in almost every issue in school. But then he came to me and was like, how come you're different? You move with us, you hang with us, you make noise with us, and then on Sunday you're in chapel. You move with us, we go to the bathrooms, we are doing whatever, we are talking about whatever we are doing. But how come you're different? Because I knew the experience. I would actually go there to see how these kids do it. I'm like, you're actually doing it wrong.
You amateurs.
They're like, you do not do it. How come you're telling us we do it wrong? Like, I just know. And actually, people used to think I grew up in a ghetto or something. But then I was in this life where you're like in between.
I want
understand
to
that hard life. You want to reform, and then you pick some characters, you look good. One time a boy called Rogers comes to me and he's like, you look like a mama's boy. You look like you're taken care of. And it was rang on my mind for like 2 days.
Like I don't have
so I have become like this, yet I do not have them physically. And I'm like, good, what are you doing? There was a volleyball court one time, prep time. I get out of class, go out, and I began to pray, like openly look at the sky to thank God. The life I have come from, the things I have done, the things I regret, the bridges I've burnt, I've broken. And I'm like, God, you brought me here for a reason. So I get to that volleyball court and pray and cry, but tears of joy. The other time it was tears, I don't have mother. Tears, I don't have this. Tears,
but this time
I'm like, God, I am grateful. Even kids who have grown up here in Kampala see me as one of them. Like I'm a mama's boy. I'm like, no. You actually go to know like years later. I'm like, I actually am an orphan. It's like, you had everything, like no, that was God doing his thing. So me, the way I began to minister to these classmates and people in school, I did not preach. I would hang with them. And then time for fellowship on a Saturday evening, I'm like, you guys, let's go for fellowship. And they would come. One time someone sent me a very long message on what campus. It's like, we would have birthdays in bars, you come through. We have house parties, there's shisha and whatever, you come through. We have what people are in any dress code, you come through. When it's time to pray, they tell you pray, and you pray, but you're still in the same environment. And those are the people I have seen their life change.
Wow.
People are giving testimonies. People are serving in church. Yes, I did not judge. There was a time even my own team, I was serving in Scripture Union. My own team called me for a meeting, telling me you're very close to girls. They're telling us you have more than one girlfriend. You're close to the drunkards. You're close to these guys who escaped from school. It actually reached the head teacher, who actually knew my one of my uncles, and he called me. I was like, "You're a good boy. You have good
Why are
grades.
you
You
hanging
focus.
out with such
Why are you
people?"
with?" And of course, the Bible tells us you hang around those. It's actually about character. Like the character of those people will corrupt your good morals. And I'm like, no, it won't. And they didn't believe me. But I said I'll hang around them, but at least win someone
To
over.
change them, yeah.
I would invite them for fellowship. They come through, like, thank God I'm here. They clap for them. Of course, like, they'll let everyone speak. And then later on, people begin to give me these testimonies. People are in church. I meet them at different churches when I'm invited. I'm maybe doing a fellowship somewhere and I meet these people. Like, man, me, I've decided to follow Jesus. But then I remember their life. And then they tell you somehow in my journey, thank you. But I didn't do anything. I didn't sit them down.
You were there with them.
I was there with them. I did not judge them. And that is one thing I can thank God for, that even my life, with whatever I have gone through, someone is able to learn something from me. I didn't choose to just say, now I need to start behaving a certain way to win over people. One time a lady actually told me, "You're so likable. You're so friendly. Kids easily love you." Because I have learned all these spaces, I have learned all these environments, and I know how to live with people. If I've been able to come from a village and I can survive in Kampala, I went to
Come from the streets.
these schools. When I go to the streets, how I go to the streets, I finish campus. I did industrial and fine arts. And I'm like, I need to teach that to some people as a way of reaching out. I volunteer in different organizations, like Save Street Children Uganda. I volunteered with Haven for African Children. I volunteered with AfriChild, and I'm like, I need to do something in these spaces to give a skill to these young people. But as I'm there, I tell them my story, not the depth of it, but to show them God can. Because I'd given my life to Christ. So I had to do something to show them there's a clean path, there's a good path you can follow. So I was like, you guys, let me come teach something, you don't have to pay me. Along the way, I was like, I need to start something for myself. I need to build an organization, a foundation. And then I went to the ghettos. There is no ghetto around Kampala, Umbara I've not been to. And I get there, I know the language, I know the lifestyle.
You know how to fit in.
I know how to
get
fit
them
in.
to trust you.
Yes. I come down to their level. However smart I look, I will sit down in the dust, or if it is mud or anything, because you have come for them. Don't show off your smartphone or a good watch or whatever. Come to their level. That is when they'll be able to listen. And I have actually been able to reach more than 2,000.
Wow.
In Uganda, not only Kampala. So when I started the foundation, of course with many people to support me because of how I've volunteered, how I've worked with them, how I have a success story, they're like, we can support this one. I have had people come to me. I have had people travel from the UK, from Germany, from the US, because they have seen me on a certain platform talking about street children, talking about my story. So that was another way God will show you with whatever you went through, I will still come through and deliver you. I'll still come through and show you I can actually show off.
I will use you.
Show off, use you, and amaze you. Yes, to redeem others. So currently I'm the team leader and founder of Creative Generation Foundation.
Wow.
It's an organization that teaches skills, promotes vocational education, talks about adolescent health, and also child protection, where we also do outreaches with the street children, and also go to communities to speak to kids in schools and communities to stay in school, to stay in their homes, tell them about the dangers on the streets. Because when you come to the streets and you have a good message, you have found the after effect. But then when you have a story like mine, you tested the life on the streets for some time, you got off it. The reason that triggered all that to leave home is what you take back to those who are still at home, so that you prevent that from happening. Even those that are older, because we have people that are dealing with mental health. In church they talk about it, sometimes they don't go to the depth, where even old people, because of something they went through, they get to a point and there's a void. Me, I always talk about the void. As long as you're missing something or you feel something should be added onto you, there's a hole. I have a friend called Benji. He does animation, and he talked about his story, and he felt like he didn't have a heart. So his animations
Like
have
there
a
was a
character
hole.
with a hole. When you go to his platform,
That
there's a
needed
hole.
to be filled.
So I related with him because I had the same. I'm like, there's a void everyone wants to fill. So as adults, you have this experience as a counselor. You speak to young people, even men. I talk to boys mostly. They're dealing with things. The boys dealing with drugs, with alcohol. They isolate. But because it is something on the inside that is not coming out or something that they are not receiving. We have husbands who are toxic in their families, in their marriages, in their relationships, at work. But it's all because as Africans, they tell us, absorb it, keep it inside. Don't cry as a man. Don't show off your weaknesses. But it's actually toxic. It's like toxic masculinity.
Yes.
Where you keep all this and it comes out in the worst way. It's either it's better to actually speak about these things,
so you
open
can heal,
up, cry about it. I'm Christian, but I follow what happens in on our social media in our country. Eddie Kens was talking about crying. I love his story because he also came from the streets. He was like, men should cry. These are subjects actually they should actually talk about even in church. It's like, be a man, you're the head of the family. Or the church should also come down and tell people it's okay to cry. Call your wife, be in the room, talk to them, cry, tell them your weaknesses, your insecurities. But when you bury all that and pile up inside, it comes out a certain way. Some of the stories we see of people who are broken, girls living a life they do not actually want to live. Find it's a father that was actually was broken and he's building a broken family.
Broken family.
You find there's a son. I have been told to speak to other young people. And then sometimes I'm like, I didn't get anyone to talk to me, but if I'm the one to speak, then let me do it. Why you find a mother telling you, I have a boy, he's dealing with this and this, he doesn't respect, he's too entitled, he's too... And you speak to them, the problem is actually the parent. And I get to understand it's something that you carry from behind. Because we are supposed to pray. We are supposed to believe for our children, for our friends, for our families. As a father that I'm going to become, I don't have children of my own, but I pray for my children. I pray for my wife that I haven't met yet. So even as we're building all that, we should pray. I used to pray when I was going to steal. You can imagine me going to steal and I'm
so
like,
how
God,
much more
be.
now?
Now it has to be more. I pray more.
Yeah.
I never used to fast. By midday, I would feel like I'm collapsing. But then I'm like, I need to fast for something, for a reason. I need to worship God a certain way. I need to dig deeper and understand. So even as us praying for children, dedicating them to God, it should be continuous. Anyone can end up on the streets. Anyone can do drugs. Anyone can do alcohol. You see people who actually have a journey in church. Even some of the famous musicians, they tell you started in the church choir. They get to the other world, they begin to drink and smoke. You meet people who have been serving in church, they've made friends, they traveled somewhere, and then life changes. They tell you, man, I am now living like this. A life that actually you don't expect them at any age. Something triggers, something about lifestyle, and
you shift everything.
You shift. Now imagine our children who are to come, a generation that is coming. They're exposed to many things. Some of us, I'm a millennial. The Gen Zs have a lot of information. Life is a bit simple.
Generation Alpha is actually worse.
So for us who actually have something to pick from the old people, they tell you about Idi Amin. The kids of today don't tell them about the war because they haven't felt anything. They are just read about these things. So for what we went through, for what we have been able to experience, how we know God, because even kids today, how they know God is not how we met God.
That's true.
Some of us had to go through
issues and
the fire.
scenarios. Yeah.
You had to go through an experience and then to get to understand it is God that brought me here. But then there are people who actually have everything sorted and they are broken.
I know.
Because they feel
And they're badly broken.
A mother is not talking to them a certain way. They're
Mother
not
is
praying
busy.
with them a certain way. They never have time to interact as parent and child. Yet some of us actually didn't have that, but we felt whoever is able to speak to me, I'll listen. That is one thing that actually helped me. That if there's anyone that offers to say, let me talk to this young man, let me tell you about your lifestyle, let me tell you about your pride. I was humble, but I was proud. You see how someone says you can't be humble and proud? Me, my pride would humble me of, I would look at you from a distance, be quiet, and I'm actually judging you, I'm actually analyzing you, and I'm like
she feels she's important.
Yes. I told you about how I actually had a girlfriend in senior 6 and I was in senior 4. I was close to old people. I would listen to their conversations.
You find more comfort with them.
With them, because my grandmother told me, you are alone in this world. So being close to them, the movies, whatever, I'm like, I need to be like them. I need to learn how to do this. So I actually was able to talk to a girl in senior 6. Tell her how I feel.
About
and I'm like,
her.
I want to be with you. As a boy in senior 4.
And she agreed.
She did not turn me down. And we had the stories in school where they'll be like, she turned down the other one. And then, what did you give her? But because my mind was older than me, by the fact that as a little boy I would decide, leave home, leave whatever, go and survive alone, then your brain is thinking, is growing actually faster than you.
Yeah.
So I offered myself, like how you say I'm going to sacrifice myself, get all the punches, but if anyone says I need to speak to you and it is something serious, I always paid attention. So there's a gentleman called Timothy. He leads AfriChild. He's a very busy man, but he says, I have 5 minutes between 1 and 1:05. Can you come to office? And by 12:45 I'll be there. For the 5 minutes, I'm going to feed. Because whatever he speaks, I'm going to earn. I'm going to grow. The successes he sees, he actually gets to understand what I have done for this young man is growing. It's a seed he's planting. And we also need to do the same for these
for the coming generations.
Yeah. I believe our elders need to come down and speak to us. I can't say I've seen it all. Yes, my life has been turned around by God. But I'm still young. I'm still a child. We are all big kids. This world is our toy. We learn how to play with it, how to survive with it.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we can be able to manage. That we are still
but some
children,
people
we are
thrive,
still
some
learning.
people sink.
Exactly. Yeah.
And those that sink need a hand.
So the pride that I have now that I'm able to speak to people, I'm able to, even if it's one person, as long as I touch something that is going to shift them from one level to another, I'll do it. I might not have all the money to give someone, but I believe I'll make the money. If I want to do charities, if I want to sponsor children, build a school, my foundation grows, it's all about faith. It will get there. But what we do now, what we plant now.
Wow. Where are your sisters now?
My sisters are doing okay.
Wow.
They're all in their families with children.
Ooh.
Life is good.
That's
we
beautiful.
meet, we go out every month.
Your uncles?
My uncles are okay. My uncle George that raised me, brother to my father, passed on last year in August. May he rest in peace. He's the person I can call father.
Wow.
He loved me so much. He gave me a home. He pampered me. I forgot I was an orphan. His children loved us. We are one family till today. We even have a name. We call ourselves Transcenders.
Wow.
We are one family. And that could only be God. Because you look at even other cousins, other siblings, you're like, if they had gotten what I got.
Yeah.
But then they look at you, you're better, but then they actually remember.
And they had parents.
They had parents. They remember you actually don't have them.
God just made a way for you.
And then people are like, you have it all sorted. You have connections in Kampala. You have... But to be honest, most of what I have done, there are very few people that have done, will say, have this money, do this, launch this. No. the people that have been able to push me are friends. People I met in ministry, people I met in church, people I told my story. Because I understand in the life we are living now, because as long as you're still alive, you're still part of the generation.
Exactly.
How much you say you're millennial, there are Gen Zs.
You are
As
here.
long as you're alive, you're in the same
You're part
generation.
of that. You're in the mix.
Yes. So we can't say those that are not in this, we count them as a loss to our generation. No. We have to pass on something.
The legacy, yeah.
As we received, let's give to others. Because the Bible says the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few.
Yeah.
Actually, what follows next, it says pray. But the laborers are few, so we pray. Pray that the laborers can increase. Pray, and you're a laborer to what?
Exactly.
To take a harvest. Yes.
Wow, that's that was I don't know, but I feel it's more of a turnaround, a transformational, the real definition of transformational. You know, sometimes we throw these words around without actually understanding their meaning. But when you see someone go from one step to another, and like we usually say, growth is not linear, success is not linear, like it's a zigzag, you know, or tagala no tagala, the void and all that. But now he's already feeling other people's voids. I bet you can look at someone and know that there is something that they can't even put in words, but they feel something, and that's because you have gone. So God has not wasted your story. He is using your story up until now, and he will continue using your story. Sure. I hope that we've been able to learn from this. And parents, just like he emphasized, let's pray for our children. Let's pray for our children, and not just your children. Pray for the generation. Pray for the people around them. Pray for their fellow school-going kids, even in the school your child goes to. You can never know. I was listening to President's story recently, and I think it was Kawanga Semogedede and some other chaps that he met at school, and he changed the trajectory of their lives. So that means that your children's friends, they have the power to change your child's trajectory.
True.
They can either influence them for bad or for good. So when you pray for them, you just dedicate them into God's hand and let God take it from there. It might not be linear, it might be zigzag, but he will get them to the good ending that he promised to have them. Otherwise, from us to you is we love you, but we need to hear your feedback. It makes us feel good. Tell us what you feel. Tell us what you have learned. Share this with anyone else that you think might need it, even with the children. I believe this is something that is family friendly, that you can watch together with your family. I believe there's something for everyone. God bless you.